All right, Stefan, you ready?
I'm ready. What's up, guys?
Can you hear my audio? All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, good. Do you want me to jump in, or do you want to start with anything, Justin?
Um, I don't really have anything to go over. We got some feedback from last week's call. We're gonna. Do you want to chat about that now?
Yeah, I can do that real quick.
Cool. So one of the things that we're definitely gonna, me and Stefan are gonna kind of go over some stuff with, um, putting together a syllabus that gives just like a better general outline of kind of the way this program is going to move over the next year. Um, Obviously, it'll have its ebbs and flows and deviate from the outline, but that'll kind of give you guys a better idea um, as to what's going to be going on throughout the course of the year. Obviously, as things come up, we'll obviously start addressing them, and as we see the group shifting in a certain way, we'll be doing, I don't know. Maybe like if there's a big issue with Facebook out of nowhere, then we'll be doing a lot of Facebook compliance stuff or Google or whatever. So that would be kind of the deviation from it. But overall, we just kind of want to we'll have an outline probably done this week sometime with kind of the overall stuff we're going to hit on over the next year. Anything you want to add to that?
Uh, no, yeah, that's. I think that'd be really helpful. Again, it'll be kind of subject to change because of what Justin just said, but we'll still kind of outline everything. Like I know I have kind of my stuff listed out, and you'll kind of understand. Okay, here's like the flow. Here's what we're planning on covering, and then we will again, yeah, we will adapt it to the group as well. So if people provide a lot of feedback that certain things are of higher value or importance, then we may look at moving the order around. But we do want to get you guys kind of like a holistic view of what we're going to be doing over the next 6 months to a year. At least be clearer over the next like 6 months than over the year. There's stuff that may change like next January, but yeah.
Yeah. One other thing, the Facebook group is doing really, really well right now. Lots of questions going on, discussions going on there. So if you're not taking advantage of that, I highly encourage you to do that. And if there's questions that are being asked that you have input on, feel free to jump in, give your input. It's not just for me and Stefan to give input. There's a ton of really good copywriters and marketers in this group, and we'd love to have you guys chiming in, giving your suggestions as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I just added a couple of things today, which some of you guys already saw. I added the kind of follow the syllabus, kind of are really the notes from my copy intensive. We'll get those into the members area, but I put them into the Facebook group. That's super valuable because if you watch the videos, like then you can actually follow along and see as I'm dissecting copy, you'll have that copy there. So that's really useful. And then I just included a link to my kind of swipe file, which I've got actually more stuff to add to it, but it's got a ton of resources in there already. So it's got a lot of things to swipe, like direct mail pieces, some more active and current stuff. And then it also has some additional resources, whether those are books or guides or trainings. So we'll also get that into the members area, but it's in Facebook right now. And it's a pretty good treasure trove. But if your stuff happens to be in there, then like I mentioned in my Facebook post about it, don't hate me. I'm just kind of collecting. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of like Agora stuff in there because people have over the years been like, check out all these Agora controls, which if Joe's on the call right now, he might not love, but I don't know, man. The people are collecting this stuff. Good copy gets collected and saved, and whether it's me or there's tons of people that have this stuff. So, anyway, it's very valuable. It's mostly health oriented right now, or there's a lot of financial on the Agora side, but I'll work on continuing to add more to that with like BizOp, any other verticals. And if you have requests for certain niches or verticals where you'd like me to be collecting and gathering more swipes, just let me know, and I'm happy to do that.
Cool, man. So one last thing. Last week, the call was much, much longer than we expected. I could tell by the end of it, especially through the end of the platinum call, people were pretty worn out. Our goal is to keep, I would say, the gold portion of the call probably to an hour 15 minutes or so. And then the total call, if you're on platinum, somewhere around 2 hours to 2.5 max. It's kind of our goal because after that, people just lose too much. I mean, it's draining. So we will push more this week to get as much information and much good information done and as quickly as possible. So I say with that, let's get rolling, man.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I'll share my screen in a minute. What I'm going to mostly focus on today is the unique mechanism, which a lot of you guys have probably heard me talk about before at this point, but it's worth a review here. So I want to go over it, and then I'll show a few examples, and we'll kind of see where we're at time-wise at that point. But we can even look at some existing controls in the market. Like if anyone has an interesting offer that's like long form right now, you can use mechanisms for short form too, and I'll talk about that. But if anyone has like a long form and they even want to pop it in the chat, that it doesn't be yours, but if it's somebody else's, like that you've seen and you want to look at it, preferably text, because video, we're not gonna watch a video together. We can, I wouldn't mind going through a couple things that people share and seeing if we can't identify unique mechanisms in that stuff as well. So if you have something, feel free to pop it into the chat. And after I kind of talk about the mechanism in general, we'll jump into that part. So let me go and share my screen. There we go. And all right, so I'm gonna put this over here. I'll make it bigger. All right, so the unique mechanism is actually, it's crazy important. And again, if you've heard me talk about this, then that's because it's important. I talk about it a lot. I think it's actually, it's going to help with a lot of things. It's going to help with writing long form copy tremendously by doing this part. It's also going to help with, getting really the copy being successful, because you want to, the whole root of the unique mechanism is there's two parts. There's a unique mechanism behind the problem and the unique mechanism behind the solution. So the unique mechanism behind the problem, you're trying to show them why they failed in the past, why their problems still exist, despite the fact that they've used other solutions. So really think of it as you're saying, hey, you understood 99% of what the problem was, but you were missing this one part. And it's something unique and interesting and kind of surprising to them, but it's explaining why they've had this problem in the past. And the solution is simply a logical connection that's showing them how, okay, now that you understand the real reason behind your problem, here's the real solution. And it's really, they're built to complement each other, because if you're able to show them how, if they agree or believe now that there's a real reason they have failed in the past, then they're much more likely to jump on and latch onto your solution, showing them the real reason that they can succeed in the future. So you almost look at like, the problem is the past, the solution is the future, and you're bridging the gap between the two. So for example, weight loss is a classic example, right? But like if everyone's struggled to lose weight, everyone's done tons of diets, tons of weight loss programs, and yet they're still reading your sales copy because they're still fat or they're still unhappy with where their weight is, and they kind of wish that it was better. And so I think when you come in and you're trying to sell a weight loss product, even like keto right now, if you come in and you're kind of just saying like, hey, your problem is that you're eating a low fat diet and you're having, a lot of carbs, and carbs make you fat. That's sort of like the unique mechanism of the problem that people are using. However, I don't, that in my mind, the market's becoming so sophisticated and seeing so many of these same products that doesn't do it for me. And I don't think it does it for the market. So if it were me trying to do an offer like that, I'd be trying to find an even more unique kind of variation on this. And so for what I just did, for example, the unique mechanism I kind of focused on was addiction, like addiction to sugar and to carbs, and how it's not even that your cravings are so powerful because you're physically addicted to these things. So for example, there's a part in your brain called the nucleus accumbens that lights up like a Christmas tree when and this is related to the keto research I was doing, that we went through the other day, right? But it lights up like a Christmas tree, and as a result of that, you are actually addicted to sugar and then carbs. And the problem with that is that both of those things make you fat. Here's the science behind that. And so by doing it that way, it's not like people have heard, people have cravings, and that's a big pain point for the market. But instead of even just saying the problem is you have cravings, you're saying why you're addicted. But it's not just like a casual addiction. You're making it very clear that they're actually physically addicted. And I wasn't going to do this, but I'll actually show you guys in a minute the copy specifically for this one, so you get a feel for it. And then again, the solution is like, okay, in the example of a keto thing, if you're addicted to sugar and carbs and they're making you fat, the solution is to get unaddicted, right? But how do you do that? Because you can't just, if you go cold turkey on something you're addicted to, you'll go through withdrawal and it'll be painful and all these things. And that's why the traditional keto diet is so difficult for so many people, because they're trying to just cut cold turkey. But that's like cutting heroin cold turkey when you're a heroin addict, or alcohol cold turkey when you're alcoholic, whatever it is. And so what we're doing now is our unique solution is that there's a sort of phased path into ketosis. So basically in the first week, you're slowly doing less and less carbs. And you're highlighting that during that first week, you're still losing weight, because the fewer carbs you have every day, the less, the more you're able to start burning fat. So you're not telling them they have to wait a week for results, but you're basically showing them that to really succeed with the keto diet, you need to ease slowly into it. And so that's kind of the unique mechanism behind the solution. So that's one example, but it can be anything. Again, it could be in, biz dev, financial, self-defense, literally anything you want to think of. It's the same concepts of why is it that they're not where they want to be? They have a problem. What's the real reason behind the problem? So if it's like, financial, like day trading, and you're talking about how, there's some kind of, it could be a power that B is holding them down. It could be that the day trading software is inherently flawed, and that there's like some one kind of flaw in day trading software that is showing you, as a result, you're actually always like behind the market when you make moves, and it's actually costing you money. And so the solution is to get real-time day trading kind of input. It could be whatever it is. You can always find it, but it's so important because, again, they've already seen a million solutions. We're consumers, and we're marketed to and advertised to constantly. And so there's always a gajillion solutions being presented to us. So how do you make your solution stand out? And the best way to do that is to actually first show them that they've been missing part of the problem, and then that your solution is unique. So if that makes sense to everybody, I'll show, and look if there's any chats or people asking questions on this. Let me open the chat here. Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you, Meredith, for checking that out. Let me find real quick here this sales letter, and I'll show you an example of the mechanism. Okay, so one thing I did with this one, which was actually kind of interesting, is I really just spelled out what the problem was first, because I felt like, generally if I'm writing a mechanism document, I'm looking at, again, unique mechanism behind the problem, unique mechanism of the solution. But in this case, I was like, let me really define the problem, which I got from my research and from understanding the market, right? So in this case, like, the problem is that the prospect is significantly overweight, at least 50 pounds. It's affecting their quality of life, their confidence, their self-esteem, their happiness, their relationships. It's also threatening their health. Their A1C and blood sugar levels are high. They're either pre-diabetic or diabetic. They have unhealthy cholesterol. They feel tired all the time, have poor sleep, possibly suffer from gout, feel bloated, have stomach issues. They've tried to lose weight for decades now. They've had success on diets over the years, but none of them last, or none of the diets last. They end up yo-yoing, where the weight goes down, then comes back up. They struggle with cravings that can derail their success, especially sugar, which is so addictive it's like a drug. They emotionally eat to mask the pain of their childhood, their divorce, or other traumatic moments in their life. To sum it up, they are overweight now, and it's affecting their personal life and threatening their health. They've tried different diets in the past and never had long-term success. That's really all we need to know, okay? And then through research, what I actually will do a lot of times too, and this is important, I'll break down the mechanism into steps, the unique mechanism of the problem into steps. And this helps me personally, because then it's even more logical, right? So through my research and thinking, it's like, okay, the unique mechanism behind the problem is addiction. You're addicted to foods that are making you fat. So kind of one, sugar makes you fat and it's addictive, right? Proof: when you have high blood sugar, your body creates insulin. Sugar is stored as glycogen or burned as energy. Actually, rather than reading this, I'll just come into the research part. So it's addictive. Here's what I have. David Ludwig and his colleagues at Harvard did a sophisticated study and showed that foods with more sugar trigger a special region in the brain called the nucleus accumbens. This is the same part of the brain that is triggered in addicts when they're using cocaine or drugs or gambling or drinking. There was a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, one of the most respected journals out there, and it was a randomized blinded crossover study. And I won't read the entire thing, but basically what happened is they gave people 2 milkshakes. They had a group of men. So milkshakes tasted identical, and they're calorically exactly the same, but one had a high amount of sugar and one didn't. They did brain scans after each milkshake. So when the group had the milkshake that didn't have a bunch of sugar in it, nothing happened. Brain didn't light up. Brain scans were normal. And then when they had the milkshake that had a lot of sugar in it and a high glycemic index, their brains lit up like a like that, because this helps me. And again, this is something I did before I'm writing the copy, and I'm going to use it in my brief. But this is now I basically have all this copy that when I write my sales letter, I can just take it and plug it in. And I mentioned that other people have done the same thing. Dr. Eric Stice, Dr. Nora Volkow, Nicole Avina, PhD, right? So basically now I've established point one of the unique mechanism behind the problem is that you're addicted to sugar. And I have some other stuff here too. And I actually went even further, and I was like, we can show an example of something where we tell them to look at a picture of a normal healthy food and kind of ask them how it makes them feel. So if I look at these green beans, nothing really happens, right? I'm like, cool, green beans, I should eat more green beans, whatever it is, right? And then I'm like, now look at this picture, which is like delicious candy. So I actually kind of just wrote out how I feel when I look at it, right? But my mouth starts to water, there's more saliva, I start shaking my leg, my eyes start moving faster, darting around. I start to imagine taking a giant glob of these gummy bears and stuffing them in my mouth. The sweetness, the fruitiness, the chewy goodness, it gets me physically excited talking to you about it. Maybe you don't like gummy candy, so here's like a piece of cake or cookies, right? And so the point is I'm going to put this into the copy, and I did, because then you're basically saying, how did you feel when you saw the picture of green beans? How do you feel when you see the picture of these delicious treats and candies? And for most people, if I'm like my mouth, like literally my stomach is kind of moving around, just James says I'll take a handful of these. And Meredith, yeah, I'll answer your question in 1 second. But because this is further kind of proving that it's addictive, and instead of me just giving them much of science, now I'm having them do like a physical at-home test that makes them kind of gauge their own reaction in their gut. So I'm using words and copy to elicit a legitimate physical response that then proves out that part of the mechanism behind my problem. Meredith, as far as how I dig into the problem that they didn't know was there, yeah, it is generally through research. As I'm going through different, like for this one, going through research and reading stuff about people with their sugar cravings and craving cake and falling off the wagon, and I saw that was sort of this ongoing issue. So I started kind of looking into food addiction and sugar addiction. Actually, really, I started with sugar addiction to see what the research said. And as I did that, I basically just Googled sugar addiction, and you start getting interesting articles. And from there, it can take you down a bit of a rabbit hole. But there was a really good one from Psychology Today had one about how sugar addiction is very real. And then Dr. Mark Hyman had one about it. And then on his page, it talked about how, all these studies, it mentioned that Harvard study of the milkshakes. It talked about, there's a great quote, which I ended up not using in the copy, but I thought was really interesting, which was, what if Kobe Bryant or LeBron James went on national television promoting the benefits of cocaine water to increase sports performance? Would you allow heroin dispensers in your kids' schools? Think heroin lollipops or morphine muffins. This is exactly what's happening in America today. And so, I thought like, wow, this is really, they're really comparing it to a drug. And through the research, I realized that there was, all of this sort of substantiated research showing that it really is like a drug and that's as addictive as a drug. And so I started kind of honing down on that. And then I did have some basic knowledge about this. So I'm like, all right, well, I know sugar makes you fat. And I kind of, I'll show you step 2, right? Because part 2 of this now.
Stefan,
yeah.
One thing I want to jump in and kind of show is the part that you're showing right now, which has a lot of research, a lot of medical studies and stuff. A lot of copywriters get hung up here and they make this very boring.
Right.
You've done a great job. Like, this is really interesting. It's pretty like gripping and you want to keep reading. Like I said, this is a big hang up for a lot of copywriters where you think when you're going into medical stuff or you're going into research or whatever, that you kind of have to be all like professional and doctoral about it. The way you've done it here, I think it exemplifies how to do it in an entertaining and interesting way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's actually a really important question. Or not a question, but point, because what I do see is exactly what you said. And I think, a lot of copywriters are creatives, so they may not be that scientific. I flunked biology in freshman year. I had to retake it over the summer. Like I literally, not because I'm like dumb, really, maybe a little dumb, but also I just wasn't interested and it was boring and all of that kind of stuff. And, but so, now I've kind of grown to be interested in this stuff, but I wasn't. But just because I think a lot of copywriters, because they're creatives and not science oriented or math oriented, not only do they not want to do this part, or Chris Haddad always says he's allergic to research, and so he tries to write so emotional that he doesn't have to show you really any research or studies, and obviously that can work. But I think a lot of copywriters feel like then this part is boring to them, and so then they kind of make it boring to everybody. It's almost like they're giving a school report, or they may feel like they have to have this part, but that they are not But it just doesn't come through as conversational and interesting. Whereas I'm trying to make it look like this incredible, exciting discovery, and I'm trying to relate it back to the viewer as much as possible, so that they're kind of nodding their head along. I'm trying to make it very simple. I sum up things constantly, right? You have to kind of like sum up, like, and by the way, so again, this is what this means. And so you'll see me repeat like multiple times throughout my mechanism of the problem and the solution. Like, remember, because sugar is making, or you're addicted to sugar, this is happening, right? And then it's like, remember, again, because you're addicted to sugar, that means X, Y, Z. So I'm literally anchoring things back to the point, because even though I've read this so many times that it all makes perfect lucid sense to me, I understand that for the prospect who has like a 7th grade reading level, they are not even, I have to make it very conversational and easy to understand, but I also need to be repetitive for them as well. Yeah, it's a good point, Kim. And then Mike, let me see what your question was here. Direct to point, discover how that ads. Mike, I'll pull yours up after I'm done going through this, and then we can look at yours and see if there's the opportunity for a mechanism as well. So to go on here, so point 1 is you're addicted to sugar. Point 2 is that sugar makes you fat. And I basically just have some proof that sugar makes you fat. Why? Basically, when it enters your bloodstream, you release insulin, which regulates your blood sugar. Insulin's job is to take sugar out of the cells and provide energy. But when you have a lot of sugar in your body, most of it can't be used as energy. There's too much. And so the sugar has to be stored somewhere. And so the body stores it as fat. And it's all the places you'd expect, but it's also surprising places like your liver, which is why there's such a thing as fatty liver disease. And I had a metaphor here that this didn't even end up making the copy, but I kind of was trying to do the thing of like, it's like using an oil tanker to fill up your car, of your gas tank of your car, which is to say, like, yeah, you could, the average oil tanker holds like, I don't know what, like 10,000 gallons of gas, and your car holds like, 14 gallons of gas. So what would happen if you took the nozzle and put it from an oil tanker and put it into your fuel tank and just held it, to try and empty the entire tank into your car? Well, like, it'll get full and then the oil would start running out, and it would probably flood your car and damage your engine, and all of these terrible things would happen. Well, this is what's happening when you have too much sugar, because while sure, your body can handle a little bit of sugar, when you end up flooding your body with sugar, it's making you fat, it's flooding your body, it's creating fatty liver disease, it's creating all these issues. And so I use the metaphor for that too. Okay, so you may not realize that most carbs are turned into sugar. I already had, so I guess this is like really, I ended up making this point 3 instead of 2, but like basically, right, like carbs are turned into sugar too, right? So basically, carbs are by definition sugar. There are simple carbs with simple sugars, and there are complex carbs made with chains of different sugars. But once you eat these carbs, they're broken down by your body and turned into simple carbs. And this is basically true of everything, except for carbs that have a high fiber content, because those pass through your body, right? So basically everything we're saying, again, sugar is addictive and makes you fat. And since most carbs are made up of sugar, and your body breaks them back into sugars, it's fair to say that most carbs are addictive and make you fat too. So now you can understand why carbs make you fat. And we have like kind of more examples of that. So the truth is, this addiction is why you've never been able to lose the weight you wanted or keep it off for good. So if you're like, okay, sugar is addictive, sugar makes you fat, carbs are addictive because carbs are sugar, carbs make you fat. Now you understand why you haven't been able to lose weight. If you do a low-fat diet, it's bullshit because it's still high carb, aka it's high in sugar, aka fat and addiction. The Atkins diet tells people to go low carb, so it does work at the beginning, but then it tells people to reintroduce carbohydrates back into their diet until they get to the point where they start gaining weight and then stop again. But as I put here, right, it's basically like reintroducing heroin to an addict just a little at a time and telling them, hey, stop doing heroin when you get addicted again. That's clearly not going to work. And it's the same with the Atkins diet. That's the problem there. Cutting calories doesn't work because, same thing you're saying, instead of just a lot of heroin, I'm going to just do a little heroin. But when something is that addictive, moderation doesn't last. And Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and Nutrisystems, same thing. They're about fewer calories or even grams of fat. They're not about cutting out addictive carbs and sugar, right? And so then I kind of made a note for myself about as a proof element, just thinking about how, when you emotionally eat because you're triggered from a terrible thing like a funeral or a death or a divorce or financial problems, whatever it is, you'll binge eat. This is a very common thing. You're masking pain, even traumatic childhood events. But these are the same reasons that someone who's recovering from a drug addiction will be at a risk of relapsing as well. I here too, like, when you're out at a restaurant or a party, you may be doing good at your diet, but then you're on vacation at a party, at a restaurant, other people, everyone's eating this junk food, and you have some too, right? But that's the same thing where a recovering drug addict might relapse too, because they're at a party where everyone's doing cocaine. So they're like, oh, okay, I'll do one line of cocaine, or whatever it is. So just trying to make it very clear here. All right, so what's the unique mechanism behind the solution? It's to break free from their addiction to carbs and sugars. They basically need to power their bodies with something other than sugar or carbs. And, basically just like a drug addict might replace cocaine with exercise, or an ex-alcoholic now paints every night. The easiest way to break free is by replacing your addiction with something healthier and better that doesn't put you through horrible withdrawals. But what is it? And basically it is, replacing carbs with fats and ketones. And so then that goes into my mechanism of the problem, which is the keto diet. But the one thing I actually don't know if it's on this document, because I kind of figured this out on the next phase, was again, I decided that they couldn't just do, let me just look at this real quick and see if I have it or not. Yeah, the one thing I realized, basically, I have studies and things like that I also saved. But the one main thing I realized here was, again, that the step one had to be a gradual reduction in carbs because of the whole addiction mechanism. So I'm not sure if this is in here or not, but like that was actually very important, because again, if you're addicted and then I'm telling you to cut cold turkey, it doesn't make sense. But I'm telling you to kind of like gradually reduce it, that does make more sense. And that ended up being the main unique mechanism of my solution. Okay, a couple questions I see here. So Alex said, Alex, in this one, it wasn't a beat your control type thing. It was actually something I just did from scratch. So I don't have any data on if it improved the performance versus the old one or not. So I'm not sure on that one, unfortunately. Jonathan asked if there's a strategic reason for the drug analogy. I think it's just powerful. I think the reason why for me was like thinking that how people are so, well, people talked in the forums a lot about being addicted, or these sugar cravings they couldn't kick, or, like having a cake in front of them and either they ate all the cake or they had this burst of willpower and it felt so good. But I just felt like, if we're going to say that it's addictive, let's make sure to really understand how addictive it is. Because I think addiction can be thrown around very casually, where you're like, oh, I'm totally addicted to this TV show or these shoes or this whatever. And like, that's cool. But I wanted to make it really clear to them that like, no, this is like an actual addiction in the same way that drugs are an addiction. And by doing that, most people, especially the target market probably, which is like overweight women, I feel, are not going to like, it sets up to be like, it's not your fault. That's really why, actually, because then you're like, okay, look, it's really not your fault. Like people always say, it's not your fault you haven't been able to lose weight. But it's like, no, really, you're addicted. Like, I mean, if you go tell someone who's horribly addicted to opioids, hey, it's all your fault, you're addicted, you're an asshole, right? You try to get them help. It's sad. It sucks. They do have to take steps on their own. But ultimately, like, it's just proven to be extremely addictive. And so, it's not their fault that they're addicted and that they can't kind of kick the habit. And the same thing being here with being overweight and with sugar and carbs and their cravings. The same concept of being like, no, it's really not your fault. You're really addicted. We need to break this addiction. It's actually easy to do. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And once you break this addiction, you'll lose weight, you'll feel better, you'll have more energy, but it's not your fault. So that's actually one of the main reasons why I went kind of hard on the drug analogies. And the final copy, which I will share with you guys, there's the drug comparisons, but I'm not doing quite as much of it. Like it's definitely mentioned for that same reason, but it's not like I keep talking about cocaine and heroin the whole time. But yeah. So does that make sense to you guys? I mean, I know there's a lot there, and obviously this video is being recorded, and I will, there are mechanism examples in my copy intensive as well, several other ones. But 90% of your daily conversations about heroin. Only about 57% of mine is, so. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have, as long as this makes sense, again, the basic fundamentals are the unique mechanism behind the problem and the solution. I do want to look at Mike's example that he sent here and ask if I think there's a unique mechanism needed in the case of this. I was trying to scroll so fast, but right, how you can bring in 30, 50 clients a month from Facebook ads. Or this offer won't last.
So real quick, the offer is converting right now 5.2%, and like it's $2. We're actually rolling out a $19 front end. Like I'm going to test that But like my whole thing is like, since it's such a direct offer, like, do I need like, hey, you have to set your Facebook pixel up like this and actually do something like this in order to get these clients, like something like that? Or is it okay, since it's such a direct offer, that like I don't need to like put a unique mechanism in there?
I'd just be really interested to see it be tested with a unique mechanism, because I feel like, if you can show them, I'm assuming their pain point is that they're not bringing in 30, 50 clients a month from Facebook ads right now, right? And so whether it's in the video or on the landing page, I don't think it needs to be like, super, super lengthy, but I think having something like, in fact, like you've seen other courses or you've been shown, how like other people have showed you the systems, but here's the problem. They don't do this one special thing. And like, this is the one thing that's been missing and has, been the force that stopped you from being able to bring in 30 to 50 clients a month. And basically like we use the SRT method or the CLOSC method or whatever it is, which is sort of this modular approach that helps you to then book more clients or, whatever it is. I mean, obviously I have to look at it more to give you a better like mechanism, but I actually think it would be worth testing that. And again, I don't think it has to be like, 2,000 words long, but I think having sort of like some kind of unique reason why that they've struggled in the past, or why they aren't where they want to be, and having sort of a unique component of your solution could still be very valuable. I see Justin wants to hop in.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, Mike, I think something along the lines of like, maybe you've tried Facebook ads before. Most courses on Facebook ads are set up to sell products, and they don't bring in the high end clients you need, or the high end targeted people that you want to turn into clients. So that's a good way to differentiate it. It's like if you're selling regular old products online, like whatever, I don't know. A normal Facebook ads course might work fine for you. But if you're a coach, an expert, a consultant, and you're trying to bring in a certain type of person who's going to pay you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, there's a specific way to do it. To me, I think that hook is pretty interesting.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. Ray, your question about does the mechanism always relieve guilt, fault, or are there other emotional benefits? I think inherently it has it provides relief generally, almost always inherently, because you are showing them why they failed in the past. And so if they have that emotional or mental hang up of, or a block, then, by showing them, hey, this is the real reason why you haven't succeeded or you haven't gotten to where you want to be, then, that inherently is going to make them it's going to relieve some kind of guilt or feeling of a fault. It depends on how you plug it in there, but but then the other emotional benefits for sure. I mean, as you talk about, especially on the solution, because it's like, the feelings of pride, happiness, joy, accomplishment, relief, I guess, again, going back to relief, but, so there's other emotions that can be tied in there. And it's not always like, hey, you've been feeling like a piece of shit, but it might just be like, you've been feeling frustrated. It could relieve frustration. It could, relieve cynicism or skepticism or people being unhappy. So it's not, I guess it's not just guilt or fault, but it is relieving whatever their main dominant emotion is that they don't like. It's usually going to be relieving that, if that makes sense. Tom said, let's see here. So do you start with the solution and sort of work backwards? Keto works because it slowly eliminates carbs. So you look for a new mechanism of the problem that your product can fix, or do you find the mechanism of the problem first and look for a way your product can solve it? Tom, I do both for sure. If I know what the solution is, like for example, with a keto product, I kind of know what my solution is going to be. I do want to find a way to make it unique. But so I'm kind of working backwards to see if I can find a unique problem behind it. And then once I have a unique problem, I might modify the solution. So for example, keto, I understand, find the unique problem being this addiction to sugar and carbs that's making you fat. So now going back to keto and the solution, I'm modifying that to be this kind of 7-day gradual carb reduction thing that then takes you into like a 30-day longer term keto plan that's all done for you. And then from there, like a kind of like a maintenance and thriving in ketosis component of it as well. But there's times where, like when I was kind of writing a lot of health products for the Lions Publishing guys, I would just go to like ScienceDaily.com because you'd find like these new causes for things. Like I don't know if you guys are super familiar with if you do health, you are. And just really quickly, because this is a good resource, great internet connection is unstable. So you guys can hear me okay though, yeah? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay. So like this is a really cool website that will show just a lot of specific to health stuff. Like, I mean, high fructose corn syrup leads to tumor growth, predicting Alzheimer's based on a protein level in the eye, things like that. You're like, wow, okay, this protein in the eye can predict Alzheimer's. I mean, you probably, depending on how aggressive you're being, maybe it's like, is related to memory loss. And so, then you're coming up with a solution, which is like a way to like, that science has found to kind of like reduce the amount of this protein built up in your body. And you're finding the solution based on that. So it just depends on kind of the causation of it. And then Jamie, am I right in thinking your goal for the unique mechanism is to set up the "it's not your fault" line? Yes and no. I mean, that's part of it for sure, because again, you're showing them, one of the reasons that why they failed in the past, and then they are going to probably now understand that it's not their fault. But I don't always hit the "it's not your fault" line super hard. For example, say it was like, compliance be damned, like Alzheimer's. It's like I'm going to give the mechanism behind kind of Alzheimer's and be like, so see, your Alzheimer's is not your fault, because nobody thinks that Alzheimer's is their fault. They would think that it just sucks and it's genetics and there's no way to like, get past that. And so, in a case like that, it depends on what it is. And if there's a social stigma around something that people kind of do feel like it's their fault a lot, then maybe. But depending, if I'm trying to think of like a unique, like a home defense product, that would be like kind of unique and sort of like maybe it's like this whole system, and you're just sort of saying the reason that most home invasions happen, or the reason most families can't stop a home invasion, is because they don't do these like 3 things that secure their family's home perimeter. And you probably didn't know about these 3 things, but like here's what you do: 1, 2, 3. And as a result, by doing these things now you can secure your home. So you're not saying like kind of, I wouldn't be talking about, hey, if your home got broken into, it's your fault and you're a shitty father. I mean, there might be that emotion of somebody else having gone through that experience, and that'll be part of like the sales letter, kind of like that whole, the dramatized story of the worst case scenario. But I'm generally not saying like, I'm not blaming somebody if their home perimeter is not set up the way it should be. And then Kim said, does anyone else think that it's not your fault thing is overused and maybe not that believable? And there's a kind of a, yeah, I see it. Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't know. I think people still like that it's not your fault. I think it can be done subtly. I think, and again, you can just use different wording or phrasing to say something. Yeah, like Meredith's saying, I think you can basically kind of position it as not being their fault, but not to say verbatim, it's not your fault. To be like, this is the real reason why you failed, right? That's kind of the same thing as saying it's not your fault. Like, this is the real reason you struggle to have success. Also means it's not your fault. So there's other ways you can put it as well. Let me pull up Meredith's example she mentioned or shared to look at and see if there's a mechanism component here. Yeah, exactly here. Agree with you, Kim. Okay, so this 13-second metabolism mineral trick before dinner to eliminate your hidden inflammation enzymes and wake up looking 1 pound lighter tomorrow. And yet 99% of weight loss experts have never heard of this trick that fights aging and fires up your metabolism gland to burn more energy. So I'm guessing the metabolism gland is going to be part of the mechanism. Well, let's look. I should be able to sort of scroll through here. So I'm going to just do that. And I know I'm scrolling fast, but it's because I want to get to the part that is obviously important to the mechanism. Give me a minute to scroll, and then I'll come back here. I'm guessing just from coming in here and starting to look at this in a quick scroll that your body may be under attack 24 hours a day from your own self-defense system. Let's see here. Signs, most of the time, inflammation is a defense system that keeps you healthy and safe. Good inflammation. In the past few years, doctors have discovered bad inflammation, and it's a spark that causes nearly every deadly disease in the world today. And you can go years without feeling a thing. So it could be bad inflammation that's taken over your body without you knowing it. Meredith did mention that this is a older offer, because I think at this point inflammation is pretty known to the market. So I still think you can do inflammation, but you need to probably go a little bit deeper here. Like I just did an inflammation-based sort of mechanism for a client, and I can't really go into too much detail on that because I do have like an NDA on it. But basically, I found like an added layer, something else that inflammation brings, and I talked about that. So it's like, yeah, you know about inflammation, but inflammation is actually causing this specific thing, like a buildup of this bad thing in your body, and then that's what's really bad. So if you get rid of that bad thing, then you can get rid of inflammation. Eliminate inflammation enzymes. Yeah, there is, but it also depends. I've seen guys and girls and people just killing it with inflammation. I mean, for example, one thing is I know saying eliminate inflammation is probably going to be a problem, but in chronic inflammation is pretty much always going to be a problem. But you can talk about like ongoing inflammation, which is funny because it's like the same thing. And, generally that's okay. You can talk about like supporting a healthy inflammatory response for sure. And that can help. So there are ways around it, but yeah. So then the solution here, right, is going to be these inflammation enzymes that force your cells to fight against you like a soldier turning on his own country. Oh, wait, no, actually, this is more of the problem, maybe, that force your cells to fight against you. Never mind. Okay, cool. So this is more of the unique mechanism of the problem. So it's these inflammation enzymes as well. Okay. And it can ruin your metabolism. It's like burning fat. Your body's fighting against you, piling up fat around your belly and heart because it's trying to fix problems that don't actually exist. So I guess I was wrong because I didn't read far enough. So it's not just inflammation, it's inflammation enzymes as well. And so they found out about that. These hidden inflammation enzymes are turning on you after you reach 40. Your fat cells spread this hidden inflammation, piling up more deadly fat. Okay, cool. This is actually pretty good. So they're spreading out this mechanism, and then they're building it out more and more. They're starting with inflammation, but they're talking about all the ways that this problem is affecting you. And so you need to avoid these triggers. So I'm guessing this might be the solution. So I'm looking here. Oh, well, the solution is going to be ultimately destroy the inflammation enzymes, but I'm just curious how they get there.
Yeah,
it's not your fault.
Farther down.
Okay.
Yeah,
but, hey,
it's a little bit farther down.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. It switches your metabolism to overdrive. Okay, cool. So I'm guessing, is it starting here, Meredith, with the
Yeah, that's exactly right there.
All right, perfect, right? So turns off your inflammation enzymes and switches your metabolism to overdrive, flattening your belly at any age, no matter how much weight you have to lose. But do you guys see the logical connection again? It was like inflammation enzymes, your fat cells are spreading the inflammation enzymes, it's making you fat. So the solution is to turn off your inflammation enzymes so that your metabolism is increased and you burn weight. So that was their unique mechanism of the problem and the unique mechanism of the solution. And so, then they go into this, how to eliminate your inflammation enzymes. And yeah, again, none of this would be Facebook compliant with the before afters and stuff like that. But yeah, so again, does that make sense to everybody? I mean, I guess everyone's on mute, but I'm assuming, yeah, unless I hear any questions or saying any kind of things message in here. But again, it's super important. Good, thanks, Ed. Because like you want people to understand like their problem and understand a different light or a different context. So it really can be done anywhere. Like with Mike's example, I really would love to see a unique mechanism behind the problem of why they're not getting coaching clients and how they can get more. Again, day trading, self-defense for sure. Like most self-defense courses or most self-defense gurus teach you self-defense this way, or it's karate based, or it's about, I don't know, this is completely bullshitting here, right? But they show you what I call reactionary responses, which are you step back and you're sort of reacting to the attacker or assailant, right? But like the thing is, when you do that, they've already had the upper hand on you, so you're more likely to be hurt. So if you can sense the attack and then you do proactive self-defense or aggressive self-defense, right? That's the way that you can actually get the jump start on somebody before they've had a chance to attack you, and you're more likely to be safe. And it's easy to do no matter how old you are because you can do it with 2 fingers thanks to this martial arts trick, whatever. But you're just kind of inverting something, or you're just taking the solution and you're changing it. Meredith, great question. I do actually mention it in the lead, but I tease about it. So I'll be like, in fact, like going back to the example on the screen here, right? It'll be like, and why, if you're having trouble, losing weight right now, could be due to these things called inflammatory enzymes that are forcing your fat cells to hoard fat and keeping your stomach swelling. And I'll explain more about these inflammatory enzymes in a minute, but first, whatever it is. Kim, do I ever put it in your headline, or do I ever put in my headline? Yeah, direct mail, I see it in headlines more for sure, but again, maybe, but I'm teasing it again. I'm definitely not, I'll hint at it for sure, but I'm definitely, because here's a mistake people where we go. But don't science the lead. What, like, I don't know if it was Kim or who said it earlier, but we get them emotionally first, and then we do want to have that part that convinces their logical brain as well. And so, we'll hint at it in the lead, but we don't want to explain anything. This isn't a science lesson. All we're trying to do in the lead is to get them to keep watching or reading or whatever it is, and go from sentence 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and so forth. So hinting is great because it gets them curious, especially if you're like, hey, I'm going to show you the real reason why you failed. And it has something to do with this weird thing you've never heard of called inflammatory enzymes or, whatever it is. But we're not going to actually explain it in the lead ever because then people are just like, don't know what the fuck's going on. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast, by the way, guys, but it's being recorded. I'm really trying to not talk so fast, but I get excitable about stuff. So, but yeah, that's basically it for the unique mechanism, and trying to honor us being a little more time efficient. Do you want to, Justin, at this part, kind of open it up for 15 minutes of if you have questions on this or just other stuff in general?
Yeah, let's open up for Q&A, and if anybody has any sales letters that you'd have a URL offhand where we could just kind of look at it quickly now and kind of show some more examples, definitely up for doing that too.
Cool. And Alex had asked, when I'm brainstorming, how do I think about making them compliant? Because it seems like an area where they could go afoul of Facebook and Google compliant copy. Yeah, they can. I'm looking at it from, I'm generally trying to write it out as being the real reason. And then and it's going to depend on the vertical a lot. And then I'm being very careful about my language for sure. Again, I know Google is okay with ongoing inflammation, but not okay with chronic inflammation. As far as depending on if I'm writing for Facebook and Google, then I'm just being really more intentional with my language instead of saying and that's why if you do this, you can start shedding 20 plus pounds of unwanted body fat in the next 30 days. I'm saying, it can get your metabolism going so that you're able to, produce more energy, achieve healthy weight loss and, whatever it is, and I'm not doing time claims and things like that. So I see a lot of good Google and even Facebook compliant copy that still has it. It's just a matter of, being a little more, more intentional. For example, in Meredith, I'm going to pull up yours in a second. I don't know if these guys are still crushing it, but they work a long time. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the Smarter Curcumin guys, which they were on Facebook for a long time. And they had, if that's true, 22,000 people viewed this site in the last 24 hours. These guys were doing just massive volume. And they were talking about inflammation support. So, that works. Their unique mechanism is actually interesting. So it's worth pointing this out real quick. It's about the bioavailability of turmeric, right? So curcumin's amazing, but the biggest issue is bioavailability, right? Curcumin alone is poorly absorbed by the body, makes bioavailability a major issue. Here's what bioavailability is. We've solved this problem. We've discovered a unique holistic system for making curcumin more bioavailable than ever. Because it's fat soluble, delivering it with a fat source, a healthy oil, makes it fully bioavailable in your body, giving you access to the health benefits, to all these health benefits, right? And then they're getting into some of their kind of claims. So this was successful on Facebook for a really long time. I think it's either running on native or Facebook still. But again, very simple, right? This whole lander, I'm scrolling really fast, but the whole lander is not that long. And it looks kind of more e-com than long form. It's actually really, it's been swiped a ton of times now, this lander. But they do have a unique mechanism of the problem and solution. It's just basically curcumin's bioavailability sucks generally. That's the unique mechanism behind the problem. The unique mechanism behind the solution is we've used this water-soluble kind of liposomal version of curcumin to increase absorption. That's the unique mechanism behind the solution. Jamie, for the keto offer you showed, the problem, unique mechanism is sugar is addictive and makes you fat. The solution is keto. Yeah, pretty much what it is it's 4 steps. Let me see if I have it in my brief here. If I do, I'll show you really quick here. I'm gonna pull it over here just to see if I have it. I can't share all this quite yet because it's not fully live here. I don't have it here, but yeah, it's basically again, sugar is addictive. It makes you fat. Carbs are just the same thing as sugar. So carbs are also addictive and also make you fat. So the solution is to stop powering your body with sugar and carbs and find a better fuel source, which is ketones and fat, aka the keto diet. But you can't just cut out all of your carbs and sugar because you're going to go through withdrawal. If you do that, then you're, kind of going to be, and then you'll go through withdrawal like a heroin addict or an alcoholic would or whatever. So that's sort of the full mechanism there, Jamie. Ed, what are some of my favorite forums groups to go research in for BizOp? I would generally be going to, I look at a lot of Facebook groups, especially for people who are in kind of like make money groups or work for home or internet marketing groups. I haven't done as much BizOp in a while. I'm going to do a BizOp offer pretty soon here. I used to do a lot and I killed it, but I'd have to go back and try and find what forums I looked at. But I'll do a new BizOp offer soon for somebody just so that I can kind of go through it all. And then I'll like film myself doing the process for you guys and do it that way. I'm doing the same thing for financial with like Agora. Like I'm doing a financial offer for Agora, which I reached out to Joe about. And basically the reason why is not just because it's Agora and it's awesome. They're great to work with, but it was because I wanted to do a new financial offer so I could show this whole process and how that applies to financial. And so I'll do the same thing for BizOp. And actually, go ahead, Justin.
Bro, the question that Ed had, Ed, I mean, one of the best things you could do is you guys have such a following with Dan that you should be on a Zoom call with them. You guys, I mean, honestly, anytime Dan could put together a Zoom call for whatever, 45 minutes or an hour, and you could really just figure out right away what all the pain points are within that call. Whether that's a group call, one-on-one call, when you guys have live events, you should be talking to everybody and really digging into kind of where they're at, what they're frustrated with. I know I said on a previous call, a lot of people in that niche, their biggest pain points and frustrations are all with how their current life is going, and they thought it was going to be better. They want to get out of what they currently have. That's why people like that are so kind of drawn to, like, they'll hop from real estate to high ticket closing to learning how to do AdWords. It's basically just they want a solution to get out of where they currently are.
Yeah, this is a little dated, but I would even look at like, to everything Justin just said for sure. Even looking at like old forums and kind of our discussions about the 4-hour work week. Like, even though that book's been around for a long time, if you can find some like forums, if you can search like 4-hour work week, like discussion forums and things like that, I think that would be really interesting, because I think that was a book that for a lot of people who wanted a better life, they read that book and they kind of looked at it and got ideas from it. And so some of the most popular books that have those value propositions, I would, look there and see if there's forums or discussions about those things as well. Tom asked kind of tips or tricks I have for making the unique mechanism section simple. One thing I'll do is I will try to I'll try and lay it out like step by, like numbered steps almost, so it's like all logical sequence are connected. Let me see if I saved this somewhere here. I'll have to find it. I have an example I'll have to find, but basically like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe it's 10, 15. I don't mind, but as long as I'm numbering out so there's a logical connection, then as I write it, I'm able to, that makes life a lot easier. Actually, let me see if I can just find this really quick, because it's worth taking a quick look at here. I think it was with this offer. Bear with me for a minute, because I think it's worth it if I can find this here. This is for like a prostate like ED offer. I'm not gonna run through the entire thing right now, but at least you get to see a biological image of like the male genitalia, so that's great. But if you look at that, I kind of basically have I have this like right now to steps like 1, 2, I don't know why that's 2 again, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it basically goes into, and it goes up to the ingredients. But by doing this for myself that way, by numbering them, I'm able to like kind of make it a more logical connection. Like in this case, so basically like the prostate gland is in your bladder. When you're 20 years old, it's the size of a walnut. By the time you're 40, it's the size of an apricot. By the time you're 60, it's the size of a lemon. And it basically creates 2 important chemicals. And these chemicals are responsible for erections and starting and ending erections, which is what most ED drugs do. So as your prostate gets bigger, you basically can't get these erection-causing chemicals, and you have ED, and you also have a swollen prostate. That was kind of that offer. But again, I number it out. And I'm also trying to be very ruthless with, if you I'm like, I need to be here in order for me to explain the mechanism fully. So I'm trying to be pretty ruthless as well with that. Let me see here. A couple more we've got. Yeah, Kim, that's a good tip as well. Which is like the finding videos for from YouTube. From a health perspective too, another thing I'll do actually, yeah, I'll look at, there's like sites for like science for kids. So you might not find one about like a large prostate, but there's like, science for kids, like sites for about like inflammation or, diabetes or weight loss or obesity or whatever it is. And so those are really good resources as well. I'm going to pull up Mataya's mechanism here.
Yeah,
Mechanism of the problem.
let's look at Matthias, and then Nina has a question. We'll get to that, and then that'll probably be about the end of the call.
Cool. Yeah, Nina, I do have a template that's a anomaly of a sales letter. By the way, just answer that really quick. I'll share it. It's in the what I was put on Facebook actually, in the kind of copy intensive manual, but I'll also just share that individual thing in the Facebook group as well. Let me have translate this for Mattia, and let me make a note to make sure I put outline in FB group. All right, great. All right, so let's go through this really quick here. Can modulate their hormones. Hormones control our body, control our health. They directly manipulate their hormone problem. So Mattia, you said that the mechanism of the problem is that you're focusing on calories and you should optimize your hormonal problem. So that makes sense. I mean, so you're building that up by talking about how they're focused on their hormones. And it's possible to stimulate hormone production in a healthy way and obtain being almost doped. So I'm going to keep going through here. It's completely new. Story. Why don't things work? So basically, okay, so as we were talking about the calorie stuff here, calorie theory is the cancer of gyms in Italy. It's a great subheader. So okay, the problem is calories. As long as calorie theory is, and I don't know this niche like super well, as long as it's accepted by the calorie theory is usually what you're told, then I think that's fine. And then, basically the solution again is going back to the hormonal profile. So, I mean, at a quick cursory look, this seems like, fine and solid to me. I can definitely take a more in-depth look at it. I don't want to take up too much time because I feel like I would want to make sure I understand it, but, it looks good to me just from a quick cursory look on it. Tim asks, is there a specific process for you to determine if a unique mechanism is a new idea the market hasn't heard before other than a standard Google search? Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do Google. I kind of know from forums if people are talking about this stuff a lot, if it's something that I'm seeing everybody talking about and everybody seems to know, then that's generally a red flag for me. Not just within Google, but you could also look at the actual keyword searches, right? How often are people searching for, a phrase or something like that? If there's popular websites about the unique mechanism of the problem you want to use, I'm probably looking at, the analytics on that, like how many people are going to the site every month. Where are they coming from? Where do they go after? So that I can see, like using SimilarWeb, the pro version of SimilarWeb or something like that, because I know a bunch of people are coming are going from a site about carb and sugar addictions to the specific offer, or I know that if I can find there's like other offers in the space that are kind of already controls of the same unique mechanism, then I'm probably not going to do it. I mean, Gundry has Silence Your Cravings. There are other cravings offers out there, but as I was doing the research, they haven't been really specifically matched to the keto diet in the context of like addiction and a real addiction. So by kind of doing my research on what's out there in the market, which Google, SimilarWeb, other things like that, I was able to kind of understand that this is unique enough that I think the market will be interested in it. Let me just see if there's any other ones. Roman did share one. Okay. Yeah, let's look at Roman's really quick. Oh, biology for kids. Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. So, all right, good. So we're just at an hour right here. Justin, should we do any more questions, or did I miss anything from anybody?
No, I think the last part I wanted to expand on a little bit, where you're talking about really being in touch with what's going on in the market. So that's one reason you want to be on 5 to 10 different email lists in the market that you're writing for. Otherwise, you're gonna wind up not really having any idea of what's going on. Is my audio cutting out?
No, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I'm opted into a bunch of.
yeah, you really just need to be in tune with what's going on in the market. So the big email list in your niche are probably the best way to know kind of what's going on.
Yeah, and then obviously you'll get retargeted for a lot of stuff too, which is actually great, right? So if you click on like all the native ads you see for different stuff, like I'm clicking on that, I'm getting retargeted. I'm definitely clicking on Facebook ads and getting retargeted. So I love being retargeted because it's good, and get retargeted for. I remember I did a like a herpes product for the Lions guys back in the day called I forget what they called it. I think I called it like HSV Eraser, but I don't know if they kept that name or not. But it was pretty successful. But then I kept getting retargeted with like herpes products, and so if you're like, that's awkward when you're hanging out with friends and you're trying to show something on your computer and you keep getting hit with herpes offers. But kind of the price you pay for copy greatness, I guess.
One other thing I'd suggest is some of the good direct mail companies buy a couple of their products. So like Boardroom, some of the health offers, which would be like SoundView. I'm trying to think what other good direct mail ones are. Just buy a couple of their products and you'll get put on all the direct mail lists, and you'll start getting all kinds of stuff in the mail. I'm a big fan of just kind of collecting all that and saving that as swipes and getting new ideas from that too.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And then, by the way, really quick, just to show you guys, that's not it. What I got? I'm trying to find the swipe file, which I had somewhere in here. Let me go back to. You guys get to see a billion things here, but let me open this up really quick so you guys can see. So just so you know, in the swipe file I put in Facebook, you've got a bunch of Boardroom swipes here. You've got some Eugene Schwartz stuff, a thing on fascinations, Gary Halbert stuff. John Benson, John Carlton, a lot of course fight, sorry Joe, Mike Morgan stuff, Paris Anthopoulos stuff, just a bunch of that. But I think the Boardroom, and again, I have even more. I'll make sure I add to this. But the Boardroom one, I mean, there's just so many good direct mail swipes in here, and then there's just a ton of stuff. So definitely take time looking through this stuff too, because you'll just get a lot of great ideas from the direct mail pieces that are just like gems. So yeah.
And that was posted in the Facebook group, correct?
Yeah, I posted in the Facebook group, and I put it in our Slack so that Blake can add a link to the members site of copyingfunnelaccelerator.com as well.
Cool. Awesome. That's a huge bonus.
I felt a little dirty giving it kind of adding it, to be honest with you guys, but I was like, I need to do it. It's like I want everyone to succeed as much as possible. So
that's fine. Yeah, a lot of those Boardroom ones are great.
Yeah, really good. There's a ton. I'll make sure they're on here, but there's a ton of really good ones in here. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So that is, we're going to wrap up the gold call for now, or the main teaching portion of the call. Like I said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to post them in the Facebook group. We will get this video up today into the members area so you can watch it again.
I'm sorry. I'm just checking. Stefan, are you going to put the mechanism sort of document up on? Will we have access to that as well?
Yeah. If you actually, so in what I shared, let me just open it really quick here.
Yeah.
I'll show you guys. Give me one sec. So I just put it in Facebook today. It's going to open in a second. It's a massive file. So So this is from the copy intensive I did. So it's like several hundred pages long, but let's see if I can scroll without it. So you'll kind of see everything like this, like the research module we went over is in here. Examples of places to look for things. You'll see, unique mechanism, right? So you'll see what I'm talking about with the mechanism. And then at least for health products, there's a bunch of mechanism examples. So I put this into Facebook, so that's here now, and then we'll make sure that it is also going to be, in the membership area too. So this is the fastest. Yeah, it's super. Yeah, super
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So this video will be, like I said, this video will be uploaded in the membership site today. Usually takes an hour or so to process, but we'll get that up and you can rewatch it. Like I said, any questions you have, post them in the Facebook group. And anything else you want to add, Stefan?
No, I think that's it. But yeah, just keep using the Facebook group, guys, because we're pretty active there. I mean, you've seen like it's really fun. Actually, I'm enjoying being able to come in and respond to stuff and looking at everything from emails to headlines. And then I do encourage everyone to keep sharing. I've noticed some people are, and it's really great that they're coming in and providing their feedback and everything. So we brought Kim back.
One thing I wanted to clarify too, the Facebook group and asking questions and feedback in there is open to everybody. So both groups, gold and platinum. So any questions you have, anything you want us to look at, Stefan and I will chime in on it. And then obviously anybody else in the group can chime in as well. Awesome. So that wraps up this portion of the call. So everyone in the gold group, that ends this portion. And then we'll take like a 5-minute break. And then platinums, we'll stay on and do the copy critiques. All right. See you guys.